In Genesis chapter 47, we see the famine get even worse. People are having to sell their land and all their possessions and even kind of sell themselves into servitude to Pharaoh just to eat. Things are bad for everybody except for Joseph's family. In verse 27, it says that Israel, meaning Jacob, owned land and was prosperous. God took care of them even in the midst of a famine. You know, it took a long time for Israel to get to this point. God made him be a wanderer. He had to watch his brother get real prosperous and be real successful, but he still didn't have any land of his own. And eventually it does come, and Jacob gets this land and he owns land when everybody else is having to give it up. God's plan takes time sometimes. We see that here. God's plan takes time, but it's always worth it. Your faith is always going to be stretched to the point where God wants it to be stretched before the blessing comes. God blessed Jacob when he needed the blessing. God never abandoned Jacob, and God even made Jacob prosperous when the whole world in this area were struggling. And they were having to learn some of the lessons that Jacob had already learned. That trusting God is the only thing worth trusting in. God is always worthy of our trust, and God will never let us down. That's what stands out to me when I read Genesis chapter 47. Come back tomorrow and we'll talk about Genesis chapter 48.